Hi, how's everyone doing? Jamie McDonald, Marketing Coordinator for EverLast Lighting here with another one of our marketing series of webinars. Today I've got with me guest Stuart Kale. Stuart is from Redwood Marketing, and he is a consultant that we bring in from time to time to help us keep things fresh and lively on our marketing efforts. Good afternoon, Stuart. How are you doing today?
I am doing good. Thank you, Jamie, for having me on today.
It's great to have you here. We've got a lot of topics we're going to cover today. We're going to try to keep it within that 15-minute format that everyone loves so well. I think I'll just kind of kick off things with something that I alluded to in the last webinar that I had done, and that was the marketing resources page, or the assets page that we've developed on the EverLast website. This is going to be a page with content that you, our representatives, can download the content and just make quick, easy social media posts across all your social media channels. And we're going to take a second here and do a little bit of an overlay and show you guys how exactly to use these features.
Yeah, Jamie, we're really excited to help release this. I think that there's a lot of agencies that we've talked with and have received information back on surveys about just needing content to post. And, we're going to talk about how content is king here in a second, but we thought this is a good way just to kind of jumpstart and kickstart some of your marketing campaigns that you may be having going on social media. And so to use it, it's pretty simple. Just mouse over one of the images that you'd like to grab and to use on your social media. Just right click it and save it to your desktop. From there, when you get to the social media platform you'd post to, just simply upload the photo like you would any other photo. And then if you go back over, you also can copy and paste the text that's below it. And we use that as a sample. You can put in there whatever you'd like to put in there, but we use it as just a sample to try to get you going. So we'll be updating this from time to time, hopefully. So if you check in, hopefully every month or so, there'll be a couple new ones in there for you to utilize on your social media channels.
That's right, exactly. And, of course, as always, when new product is developed and announced, you can expect to see associated social media assets that would land on that page as well, with product images attached to those. So something exciting to look forward to for that.
Absolutely. And if you find something that you want us to create that we would work well on that page, just let us know. We'd be happy to put that together for you.
Exactly. Another great example of that, Stu, is, we're always talking back and forth with representatives about installations that they've done, things that they want to highlight. If you've got a marquee installation that you're really proud of at your agency, if you have examples of that installation images that we can use, we can help tailor some of these little social media snippets for you guys. We'll do that right here in-house, and it's as easy as copy paste, and you can upload them to your social media channels.
That's great. But Jamie, that's a great transition too to our next topic, which is, why social media? And I think that if we would ask that question 10 years ago, we'd probably have a lot more people in the room that would be asking that probably and saying, why do I need to do this? But now, it's somewhat of an expectation, but it's a great place to tell your story. And we're going to talk about kind of the advertising platform briefly towards the end, but it's a really easy way to get in front of customers, to make that connection back to maybe, like Jamie had mentioned, a project that you did, tagging a school in, or tagging or wherever the installation was. It's just a really easy way to be able to do that. But what Facebook wants, LinkedIn, Twitter, they all want good content. They want content that they say finger-stopping content. So when you're scrolling through a phone and you stop and say, oh, that looks interesting, they want that type of content so that people hang around on their platforms a little bit longer. But each platform does have a different voice. So we find that a lot of the agencies that we've been able to work with and help that are on LinkedIn might be speaking to that audience a little bit different than what they do on Twitter. Maybe on Facebook, they make it a little bit more about their team and maybe more about their community. So it really, once you get a chance, you start getting in there and you start really watching the likes and the reactions that are happening to posts, you'll start to really get a better understanding of what your audience there wants to hear from you and what they'll be most likely to engage with.
That's exactly right. I think we should probably just dive right in. We'll talk about the three main social platforms that I think most people are familiar with, that might use on a more regular basis, and then talk about how each one of those platforms has a best practices way to probably utilize those. I think we can probably lead in. We'll start off with Twitter. Twitter is the one that's kind of been around the longest as far as social media platforms that we'll discuss today. It's kind of quirky and unique in that, you're limited with your character count and things like that. So we could talk about some of the best practices and ways to use that best. And I think I'll just dive right in with mentioning right off the bat that images are kind of a key component to using Twitter. And the reason for that is because Twitter is almost like a news feed. It's just loads and loads and loads of text that people are scrolling through. So when you do scroll and you see an image, it tends to slow down that scroll rate. People tend to stop and focus more on those tweets that contain images or some sort of media. So, that's something to keep in mind. Number one is to have some sort of an image asset in your tweet. Hence the reason we've developed this social media assets page for you, where you can download these images and embed those in your tweets. And a really quick note on that page, we've kept them pretty agnostic, so it's not like if one agency is going to use one of those posts or one of those images that it's going to, interfere with or look like it doesn't fit their agency. They're pretty open-ended as far as usage goes. So again, with Twitter, try to have an image included as often as possible, relevant to the message that you're sending. And also you just want to it's short and concise. So these are probably more like an update from your agency. It's not something where you're going to try to tell a long story about an installation that you had done or some sort of big project that you were involved in. These would be news updates or product announcements or just brief snippets. Again, they're going to have to fit in that short character count that you find on Twitter.
Absolutely. And, something that, I'd like to maybe jump into LinkedIn next, because that's another one that we talk to a lot of agencies about different strategies and ways that they can be successful on it. With Twitter, and same thing with LinkedIn and Facebook, you'd also utilize video. If you're at an installation, and let's go back to the school example. So say you have a brand new gymnasium that you just outfitted all the lights on it. Just a quick 5, 10, 20-second video of just kind of doing a quick pan of the space. That's just engaging content. And if you tag me in it, my company or my organization, there's a good chance I'm going to like it. I'm going to share it, and you're going to stay top of mind. So it's some of it is a lot of strategy, and some of it's just being really transparent and human with people. And that seems to go a long way. So on LinkedIn, LinkedIn's another area where we find another platform where it's more of the professional audience. There is a lot of salespeople on LinkedIn too. So a lot of times, we encourage agencies to encourage their sales team to utilize that as a tool to be able to kind of build rapport with opportunities, potentially, like and share some of the content that your organization is putting out. But again, it's just a different audience. And what we find a lot of times is some of the most unique content that gets the most engagement is content around recruiting. So, say you're looking to bring on a few new team members, LinkedIn is the place to do that. It is, if you've never used any of their tools for recruiting, using their where you can post jobs and it'll go scout out by title and experience and all these things, it is a phenomenal tool for that, because most professionals are on LinkedIn. And so if you haven't had a chance to check that out, I would strongly recommend it. But again, the audience is a little bit different. It's a little bit more put together. So when you're on LinkedIn, I would definitely encourage you to kind of look at that in that filter, and also poke around, see what other companies are doing on LinkedIn, see what, maybe they're not even in the same industry. Maybe it's an insurance agency, maybe it's something else. Just see what kind of content you see that keeps floating up on LinkedIn, and consider utilizing a similar strategy as you use that inside your agency. And I think, the holy grail of them all is Facebook, and we'll talk about that one next. I think, Jamie, if you want to take over on that. But I want to add in one quick thing, though, is if you haven't done it before, we do encourage you to create some sort of content marketing calendar. So just if you look at your calendar and maybe you look at where installs are happening, maybe just put in a little extra note in your calendar that you have on your phone, or write something on your calendar at your desk. Just say, hey, let's just keep a little reminder, put a little asterisk to say, this would be a great date to post out, to post some content about this, just so it keeps it top of mind. It's usually the last thing we think about, especially if we're wearing multiple hats in a business. So yeah, Jamie, tell us a little bit more about how agencies can utilize Facebook.
Sure. Just to piggyback or add another thing to where you mentioned about a product marketing calendar or a marketing calendar. Another thing that I do personally in-house is when I know that we're involved in a big installation, part of the project list of things that need to happen in sequence, I make sure I always throw something in there that mentions creating some sort of content based on that installation. So if you have projects going, it's probably not a bad idea just as a reminder to add to your list of things to do, just really quickly, just to create a couple of social media posts based around those recent projects that you've been doing.
Yeah.
And as you said, so Facebook, it's the big behemoth in the social media world right now that everyone is on, young and old alike. It doesn't matter. It's the one that seems to have everyone involved in it in some fashion or another. And so Facebook, it's an easy place to tell the bigger story. As Stu said, LinkedIn is more, think of it as like your portfolio. It's where someone is going to come to find out, everything there is to know about your company on a professional level. Twitter is going to be just the sound bites, the news bites, things like that. Facebook, you've got a lot more freedom to play, as it were, and create a longer story around those projects. And again, talking about adding content, adding videos, photos, things like that. You can create galleries around those posts as well. So you can keep people really engaged with a lot of media that goes into those longer stories. And Stu had mentioned earlier when we first started talking as well about, mentioning and tagging people, on your installations and the jobs that you've done. Facebook is a great way to do that. One of the benefits of that is that if you do an installation for the local restaurant that seems to be everyone's favorite hotspot on the weekends, you tag that restaurant, they're more likely to reciprocate. Their patrons who follow their page see that has been tagged. Now they're aware of you and who you are and what you do. And it's another way to just it's a spider web effect. Once you've got the job here in the center and you make that post, you tag the people you were involved with, their friends and family and coworkers see that post, and then reshares start to happen. And that's how these posts tend to grow and reach a larger audience without having to have an out-of-pocket expense, as it were, which we'll talk about that a little bit later on here, the out-of-pocket expense that can go along and supplement this. But again, just a really quick overview. Twitter is going to be short, sweet sound bites, news, little tidbits of information, product releases. LinkedIn, again, is just going to be the high level, the professional side of who your company is, again, for potential recruits or people who want to see a little bit more about your company before starting to engage with you and work with you. And then again, Facebook is it's the uncle that everybody loves at the family get together. Everyone is involved with Facebook. So again, the longer form stories, and it tends to have a little bit of an easier reach for people.
Yeah, Jamie, good transition here too with Facebook. I think that when we first started using Facebook, businesses started using it about 10 years ago. We could post out specifically for restaurants. Restaurants would post out a burger special and everyone would flood in. And then Facebook realized we probably need to make some money off of this platform. So they had us encourage all these people to get on Facebook, to use their platform. And then they were like, okay, now we're going to charge you to go back to that same audience that you've been building. So nothing, I tell clients that I work with, Jamie and I talk about this internally a lot, is that Facebook is an advertising platform. Mm-hmm. Yes, you can tell your story. Yes, you can do personal things down there and ways you give back in the community, but really it's an advertising platform. And so that's what we encourage people to look at it through that lens, so that when you're posting and maybe you're feeling like a little discouraged, you're like, oh, I feel like I should have got more engagement. That's where that little boost button is next to your post to be able to get the word out there. And Facebook advertising it's very complex. There's a lot of components to it, but they've made some of them really, really easy just to get started. So you can start out with a $25 budget. I think the lowest you can go is 10 or 15. I mean, it doesn't cost very much money to get your word out there, and then that just puts it on steroids. It just really pushes it out there to your community. So that's one thing we'd like to encourage you to think and reframe around, that Facebook is really, it's a great tool. It's got tons of data. You can learn so much stuff about your audience, but at the end of the day, it is still an advertising platform.
Exactly. It's the pay to play platform of them all, I guess. And again, I guess that kind of bodes the same with LinkedIn as well. You can extend your reach, of course, with any of these platforms if you start paying to do these promoted posts. But to get your feet wet, get started in social media and content sharing, obviously start off by not paying. You don't want to waste those advertising dollars if you're not sure, what you're doing with it. And again, that's why we're here at EverLast. You can get a hold of us at the marketing department, and we can help guide you along the way and get you going in the right direction when it comes time for you to start spending a little bit more money on the advertising side of things. I guess we could probably move on maybe to talk about a few tips and tricks, things to kind of get you going and get you started on advertising on social media or promoting yourself via social platforms?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is one that you know way better than me, Jamie. So I'm going to let you take. You're going to let you take the wheel on this one. But I know that one of the burdens that we hear from a lot of different agencies is just that I got all these platforms. I'm supposed to do stuff. I'm supposed to post here, and it seems to be a little overwhelming. What tool can they use to be able to manage that more efficiently?
Sure. I think the easiest one right out of the gate is Hootsuite. And, we can give links to this in the description for this webinar over on the YouTube channel so that you can find it easily. But Hootsuite allows you to schedule out your social media posts across multiple platforms. And you can, again, as Stu mentioned earlier, it's wise to set up a calendar. So if you have your calendar in place, you can schedule out tweets on Twitter, Facebook posts, LinkedIn posts, things of that nature. Even if you have an Instagram account, which we're not talking about right here today, you can schedule across all these social platforms in advance. So when we were talking about budgeting time earlier, and I mentioned that if I see a project coming up, I make sure I allot a certain amount of time to generate content for that. Depending on your agency size, it might be something where you take, a couple of hours, one day out of the month, and you schedule out an entire month's worth of social media content. Just kind of set it and forget it. Hootsuite comes in a couple of different flavors, I'll say. One is free. You're a little bit limited on the number of social platforms that you can send it out to, but then they do, of course, like everyone else, have a paid version that gives you a little bit more robust tools as far as spreading your information out across numerous social media platforms. Hootsuite is the one that I prefer to use because, again, I can hit multiple platforms and have an entire month's worth of things scheduled out in advance really easily.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and we've talked a little bit to transition, getting close to wrapping up this webinar. We talked a little bit earlier and throughout this webinar about stories, how to tell them, what you can do on Facebook and LinkedIn. A lot of it does revolve around stories, and there's really not a one size fits all book or training that you could go through. But one that we do talk about a lot is Story Brand. It's a book by Donald Miller. It's a fantastic read. If you have not had a chance to take a look at that book, it's a really, really good book. And included with it is like a kind of an ecosystem of things and resources that you can use inside of your business to help better tell the story. And what Donald Miller says is that the hero of the story is your customer. And so oftentimes, it's easy to make yourself the hero of the story, but he encourages it to be the other way around. And his way that he does it is a really unique way. So I would definitely recommend taking a look at that. He also has another book out called Marketing Made Simple. I pre-ordered it and it came in, and I've been so busy, I haven't had a chance to read it. So I can't speak to that one yet, but I have seen reviews, and it is very positive for sure. So take a look at those, and obviously reach out to us at the team if you have questions about any of the things here today.
For sure. Hey, I just want to thank you, Stu, for stopping in today to sit down and do a little bit of talking about what you and I like to do as not only our living, it's kind of a passion of ours, and we're happy to share that with everyone else out there. Again, thanks for watching this webinar, and if you have more questions, as always, reach out to me, Jamie, at everlastlight.com. I'll be glad to sit down, schedule some time to one-on-one with you over Skype or telephone or email correspondence if that's what you prefer. Take care, everyone, stay safe, and we look forward to working with you soon.
Thanks, Jamie.